All right, let's jump right in. What if the price of a life-saving vaccine, what if it wasn't just a cost, but an investment? An investment in our shared ability to build a stronger, healthier future for all of us. Today, we're going to explore a really fascinating and kind of radical new model that completely reframes one of the biggest debates in public health.
I mean, it seems like a simple enough question, doesn't it? How much should a life-saving vaccine cost? We've all been part of this conversation. How do you find that sweet spot between rewarding incredible scientific breakthroughs and, well, making sure everyone can actually get the vaccine? It's that classic push and pull, cost versus care. And let's be honest, it's always a really tough calculation.
So the usual answer you'll hear is based on this idea of value or cost effectiveness. There's this thing called cost effectiveness analysis, and basically it's all about asking, for every single dollar we spend, are we getting the biggest possible health benefit back? It makes sense. It's a logical, data-driven way to figure out which medicines to prioritize when, of course, your budget isn't infinite. But here's the twist. What if that's the wrong question entirely? What if by focusing so much on value for today's dollar, we're completely missing the bigger picture? What if the price of a vaccine isn't just about buying a single dose of medicine? What if it's actually an investment in our society's ability to thrive for, decades to come?
Okay, to really get this, we have to kind of shift our thinking. We need a completely new mental model. So let's step away from the spreadsheets and the economics for just a second. Instead, I want you to think of society as a living, breathing ecosystem.
Think about a healthy forest, right? It's got rich soil, good water, tons of different plants and animals. Now, when a fire comes through, which happens, those deep, underlying strengths are what allow it to bounce back, to regenerate. Sometimes it even grows back stronger. It has this incredible, built-in capacity for renewal.
So what if a society could do the exact same thing? That's the core idea here, that a society can have its own engine for renewal, a built-in ability to not just recover from shocks, things like a pandemic or a big economic crisis, but to actually come out the other side better, stronger, and more innovative.
And this brings us to the central concept of this whole idea. It's called collective regenerative capacity. Now, I know that sounds a little academic, a bit of a mouthful, but stick with me because the idea behind it is actually incredibly powerful and really, really practical. So what exactly is collective regenerative capacity, or CRC? Well, think of it as our shared ability as a society to generate better outcomes for everyone and to get faster at doing that over time. It's got two key parts. How good are things for people right now, and how quickly are we making things even better for the future? It's about both stability and momentum.
And just like that forest has its rich soil, our society has its own soil too. These are the foundational things that make all progress possible. We're talking about solid public health systems, great education and research, institutions that we can actually trust, and infrastructure that just works. This is the bedrock. This is the soil where everything else grows from.
Okay, so we have this idea of a regenerative society. But what's the fuel for this engine? What makes it go? Well, the answer is actually found deep in human psychology. It comes down to our profound instinctual need for security.
And this contrast here is absolutely crucial. Think about it. When you're constantly worried about getting sick or losing your job, it is completely rational to focus only on getting through the day. Short-term survival is the name of the game. But when you feel secure, when those big risks are managed, you suddenly have the mental space to think long-term, to save money, to invest in your education, to build something. Your planning horizon, as they call it, literally gets longer. And this is where vaccines come into the picture. They are a direct input into this whole engine of progress. First, vaccines dramatically increase our security by reducing the risk of catastrophic illness. Then, that feeling of security allows us to lengthen our planning horizons. We feel safe enough to think about the future. And finally, those long-term choices we all start making, investing in health, education, and so on, are what strengthen our society's overall regenerative capacity. It's a powerful chain reaction.
So if you accept this logic, it totally flips how we should think about pricing a vaccine. The goal isn't anymore about what's the highest price the system can handle. No. The goal becomes what's the price that helps us achieve the fastest, broadest coverage, because that's what maximizes our collective security.
And this is a really important distinction to make. The old way, cost-effectiveness analysis, that's a great tool for figuring out what to buy. It helps us compare different options. But this new idea, this CRC-aware pricing, it answers a different question.
It's about how to price the things we've already decided are absolutely essential. The goal isn't just getting the most health for the money, it's about achieving the fastest, widest coverage possible.
So what does this actually look like? Well, it gives us 5 clear guiding principles. Number 1, and this is the big one, maximize timely coverage. That's the main goal. 2, recover real costs transparently. Be open about it. 3, price for impact. That means you lower prices in the places where it's going to boost coverage the most. 4, reduce friction. Simplify supply chains, get more manufacturing online. And finally, number 5, align the rewards with performance. We should be rewarding companies for being reliable, not for creating scarcity.
Okay, all of this leads to a very specific and, importantly, a measurable goal. We're not just hoping for some vague idea of improvement. We're aiming to cross a very specific critical line.
And that line is called the horizon threshold. Think of it as the tipping point. It's the moment a population flips from being mostly stuck in short-term survival mode to being able to think and act for the long term. And the whole point of designing our systems well, whether it's vaccine pricing or anything else, is to get our society across that threshold and, just as importantly, keep it there.
And the really cool thing is, this isn't just a theory. We can actually measure this stuff. Instead of only tracking disease rates, we can start tracking our collective planning horizon. You could literally survey people and ask, how far ahead are you planning your health decisions? Or you could look at behaviors like on-time childhood vaccination rates, or even system-level things like how many days essential medicines are out of stock. These are real, hard data points that can tell us how secure a society actually feels.
Which brings us to, I think, the most profound takeaway from all of this. When we look around the world and see some societies that are really thriving and others that are struggling, it's easy to jump to conclusions about culture or national character. But this framework offers a much more powerful explanation. It says the difference is not moral character, it is system design. It's all about whether our systems are designed to give people the security they need to plan for the future, or if they trap them in a vicious cycle of just trying to survive today.
And so that leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. If we can design systems that actually help us plan for the future, what should we be building today? If we know that a sense of security is the engine of progress and that we can literally measure it, what does that mean for how we design everything else? Not just vaccines, but our health policies, our education systems, our economic safety nets. What should we be building right now to help all of us plan for a better tomorrow?